Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Discourse in Magic. My name is Tyler.
My name is Jonah.
And we are here to talk a little bit about our themed months. This is our first official themed month, and we really wanted to start this sort of, project with having guided conversation, right? So one of the ways we thought would be great to do that was just to focus on an area of Magic each month and sort of grow and see what you guys want to hear from and what you want to talk about over the months. And we thought a great place to start off would be community because, I mean, that's what we're making. That's why you're here, right, is for the Magic community. So,
And so we thought that community would be a great place to start because, you know, we are trying to foster a good community, and we've already seen some great discourse in our comments and on Twitter and on Facebook, and we're trying to keep that conversation going, and we're very happy about the community that's being built. Second of all, we're very thankful. This project of Discourse in Magic wouldn't exist if it wasn't for a few major communities that brought us here. So the first is a Toronto staple, which is the Magic store, Browser's Den of Magic, with the owner Jeff Pinsky. The second is where we first met, which is Sorcerers Safari Magic Camp, which is an absolutely amazing place with Magic Mike. And the third is just the group of magicians and friends and mentors that we have found around Toronto that have allowed us to build this relationship and really grow in our magic with each other. So this episode is a trifecta episode where we've got 3 different people speaking about community and speaking about
the communities they're involved in and what it means to them.
Exactly, and sort of the origin stories of those communities and why it's so important.
And one of the reasons why we wanted to do this was because what better way than to use your communities, talking about their communities, to figure out how to use communities and what makes them good, and it all just sort of comes full circle and together into one big mess. So without further ado, let's jump right in with Jeff Pinsky, the owner of the Browser's Den of Magic here in Toronto, talking a little bit about the shop and how he came to own it.
Here it is. Hello and welcome to Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah.
My name is Tyler.
And we are here with our very own Magic store owner, Jeff Pinsky.
Hello, Jonah. Hello, Tyler.
we're
Making
here,
it sound like you're not really here.
We're here in the Browser's Den of Magic in Toronto, Ontario, and we're excited about this month. Good.
Yeah, this is our first themed month, and it's community. So we thought that we would explore a lot of the different communities to us, and Browser's Den has been a massive community that
we wouldn't be magicians
brought
without
us
it,
and
right?
kept us in Magic, it's a constant in Toronto, and we'd love to hear a little bit about the history of how Browsers came to be in Toronto and
how you found Magic, how you found yourself running the shop.
Sure. Do you want to hear a bit of the history of the store?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, the shop was operated by Len and Bernice Cooper in 1975. And the story there is that Len Cooper's from New York, Bernice Cooper's from Toronto. And they met in the Catskills and got married. And they were living in New York for about 20 years. And during that time, Len Cooper got out of Magic. They had 3 children. Couldn't make enough money as a professional magician, and had the record business for 20 years in Port Chester, New York, a record business. In the last year or two, the business started to fail. He had to close up the record business, and he was selling records out of his trunk of his car, and really couldn't make a go out of it, and didn't know what to do to make a living. And he goes, he's watching the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. All right, so we're talking about, let's say, 1974. Previous to that, when he was a young guy, Len Cooper, in New York, he was a member of a youth magic club, which was run by Sherry Lewis, who has a famous puppet. Her dad ran that in New York. And there's some very famous magicians that Len knew when they were all kids. Things like guys like Ken Krenzel and George Schindler and what's his name there? Anyway, famous card guy. Anyway, a bunch of guys. Howie Schwartzman, that's the one. So there's some pretty prominent magicians. And one was Albert Goshman, too. Anyway, so Len's, probably not in a great mood, turns to the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. He was out of magic for 20 odd years, hadn't touched the thing. And he hears that on the Tonight Show that evening was Al Goshman, who, by the way, Len told me was no better than any of the other young magicians that was part of that club.
Mm-hmm.
And he watches Al Goshman on the Tonight Show, Johnny Carson, which of course was the show in that era. And he sees this sterling performance by Albert Goshman, how in those, probably 20 odd years, Goshman became the world premier, or one of the top close-up magicians, and maybe Don Allen, in the world of magic. And it got him thinking about magic again. And at that time in New York, there was Tannen's Magic, as there is now, but Tannen's Magic was a powerhouse. People may think of Penguin and Illusionist in this era. You would think of Tannen's Magic. They were the leaders in retail. So he knew there was a popular magic shop in New York. And there was a few others. There was Flosso's, of course, as well. And he didn't think there was an opportunity to sell magic, open up anything in New York. So, and Bernice was sort of missing her family here in Toronto. So they visited Toronto. And at the time in Toronto, there was, for probably about 50, 60 years, there was only one magic shop, the Arcade Magic Shop, which is down on Yonge Street. And as a kid, I was there as a young guy in the 70s, and a very small shop, tiny store. And when Len went to visit it, he saw that it was such a small shop. He made a mistake. He thought, well, there's no interest in magic. It's very small. So if I open up a shop in Toronto, it's gotta be a small shop. So in 1975, he and the family moved to Toronto. He opened up the Browser's Den of Magic on Bloor Street. Down below level. I was there as a young kid, and he almost went out of business the first year because it was quite a long, pretty big store for a magic store, and the first two counters of the store was magic, and the entire rest of the shop was records and toys and books, and it was only called Browser's Den because you could browse around souvenirs. You're in downtown Toronto. He thought all the other, especially there's a lot of traffic with people down there. He thought that the magic wouldn't take off because the magic shop that existed was so tiny. Anyway, sure enough, the only thing that was selling was the magic. All the other money he invested, in product and inventory wasn't moving. So that first year or 2 years was really rough for him. He got lucky because Doug Henning from Canada got magic going again. It was the whole magic for about 20 years. Magic wasn't popular with young people, and Henning came on in the 70s, and wow, magic's getting popular again. He went along for that ride, and so he ran the shop from 75 for 20 years until 95, and in 1995 I took over the store. I had a magic,
and how long had the store been at was it Eglinton?
The Browser's Den was at Bathurst and Eglinton for 26 years. 16 with me running it, and 10 years with Len and Bernice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in this location?
It'll be 5 years already in August.
Wow. Yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah, it really feels like it just happened.
I know.
Yeah.
5 years.
Crazy. Cool. So that's the first time. I mean, I didn't even think that Browser's Den had like a meaning. I thought it was browse around, but like it really has its like backstory.
Yeah, that's right. And to this day, with some of the older customers that come in once in a while, or someone who hasn't been to the shop maybe in 20 years, they'll ask me, how's Mr. Browser? I have to tell them Len passed away, but they think actually, because it didn't make sense to them, the name of the store,
right?
That was his name, and I had to say, well, no, the shop is called Browser's Den only.
Yeah.
And then he switched it after 1 year all to Magic and added of Magic.
Yeah.
And that's the origin of the store.
Started.
Come in and browse, because in a magic store, other than, perhaps the books, actually it's a silly name because you can't browse anything. We don't let you touch anything.
Yeah.
It's all in a showcase. No browsing.
Like,
Browser's Den.
Museum.
Please don't browse.
Yeah. Browse with your eyes only.
That's good. Yeah. And I had I ran a small magic shop, my own business. I started at Canada's Wonderland for 14 seasons. For the first 6 I was there, from '89 to '95, and then for another 8 years after I took this over, I hired young guys to be at Wonderland. So. During my time, it was a little bit different when I was there personally. The Wonderland started introducing what's very well known now as the Seasons Pass, but that was a new thing during my time, and I got some people interested in magic, and they would actually bug their parents to come and visit me just for the magic booth. Supposedly, they didn't even know about browsers or Morrissey. This is pre-internet, so I thought, that's the only thing. Jeff is the one who sells magic.
They
I
knew
have to
about
buy a pass
at
Wonderland, which I didn't really know until the stories would come filtering back to me.
Yeah.
So, but it's I mean, there's a lot of similarities, and I certainly it was a good foundation for me for 6 seasons selling magic in sort of a tough environment to take this over.
Yeah.
And
this is like, I mean, a magic store still is a very selling environment. You know, like
Yes.
people come in, and I mean, my memories of coming in here are being shown magic. You know,
Yes.
and it's still very much part of the like shopping for magic experience. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100%. I mean, every magic shop is different because it's a very personal thing. It really depends who's behind the counter. I enjoy demonstrating magic for a few reasons, and it happens, and not all the reasons are to sell it.
Sell the trick,
but obviously for the new customers, I believe they've come a long distance to the shop in many cases, or even if it's not a long distance.
They need to be bamboozled.
No, I mean, your first time coming to a magic shop, for most people, young and old, they've gone through traffic, even if they live close, and they've put in an effort to get here, and they expect to see some magic. There's very little time. I like to get it going pretty fast, and they may be bugging a mom or a dad if it's a kid, and they just, what's this? You have to breathe life into these things, just like a magician has to breathe life into his magic tricks. You have to breathe life into the magic tricks that you sell.
So have you found any change in kids coming in the last 20 years? Are kids always the same and they're always looking for the same stuff, or does it change with the times like other things?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and probably if you talk to different magic dealers, you'll get different opinions on it. I may surprise you and surprise others who think about this a little bit, that I don't think there are as many changes as people believe over the last 20 years, even with the internet. And probably you're probing a little bit for, as people's attention spans gone down, perhaps. To a degree, sure. But a kid is a kid, and an adult has a kid in him still. And I think if you
That's great.
engage them, make it a fun experience pretty quickly, that it's about, I don't think there's as much changes as people realize. I mean, you can go back to the 70s when you hear experts talk about how kids and teenagers have less attention span than the old days, so to speak. And there's true, but these are gradual. I think in demonstrating magic, the more difficult thing is not so much the attention span, by the way, of adults too, but it's they all have their phones with them, and in your middle of your demos, they'll get a phone call and stop,
or something,
But I look upon that simply as a challenge. I find that if I'm connecting with them at the demonstration, they see that, this is a fun store
thing that's happening,
that mom and dad will put away their phones most of the time, and they'll watch the demonstrations. Most of the time. So it's the role of the salesperson, just like the role of the magician, to connect.
Interest, yeah.
So maybe there's a little bit more pressure to connect than in the past, but when I took over the shop 20 years ago, I'd have customers who had been coming to the shop or a magic shop from decades in the past saying, do these tricks still sell? The coloring book and hippity hoppy rabbits, they're so old. The dove pan. And now 21 years later, a lot of the tricks are the same. So one would imagine, with all this technology, how can you sell a magic coloring book or a hippity hoppity rabbits or a dove pan? Guess what? It still fools them. A good trick is always a good trick.
Yeah. And the knowledge, like as magicians, where like there's always new things being sold, there's kind of this instinct that the knowledge of lay people is growing with our knowledge, but it's not even almost true, No. Like things that are old news in magic, lay people don't know anything about, and often you'll be able to fool a magician with something that's older in some old magic book somewhere because
they're not thrown in their face online.
I mean, I don't think people, when they go to see a magician perform or come into a little magic shop, they know how these things work at all. Only us magicians are watching the expo. But unfortunately, although I agree with you that unfortunately they can look online pretty fast to find an exposure and reveal of a trick. That didn't exist. They can't easily find. So that's a problem. Yeah.
Do you think that it's a problem because people aren't going to be purchasing the tricks, or do you think it's going to be because there's no incentive to perform? Because that's what I've noticed is that, like, when I came into the shop when I first started doing magic, I wanted to do it. You know what I mean? I didn't just want to know how it was done. But a lot of these people who watch the reveals online and stuff, they don't take the time to make the gimmick they need to make to do it or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you have to be careful, I think, presuming that everyone has the same interest or reason for going to a magic shop. In your case, it varies. There are people during my time, never mind, and I'm much older than you, during my time, where they would actually buy a trick to see how it works.
Right.
A secret. Now, they couldn't go online. They'd have to buy it.
Right.
But I'm not responding to it. It's affecting sales so much. I think it's just, I think the exposures of magic, and look, I teach some tricks on our website. So that could be construed as exposure, isn't it? It cheapens magic a little bit for everybody. Forget about the selling of magic. If someone's performing a magic trick, and it may have taken, not only forget about the money it cost, but took time, as you guys know, so much effort to perform a trick well. Most tricks are not performed well, but if you perform a trick well, and some can go on their phone and with not too much effort, in some cases, not in all cases, but in many cases, figure out the secret. Some individuals may appreciate it, but probably the average layman thinks, oh, it's just a trick. It's just, they don't appreciate the beauty of it. When I was a kid,
that's all he did was there was a flap on the back of the thing.
And to this day, sometimes people buy a magic trick or maybe a download and say, oh man, that's all it is. Yeah. That sucks. So, but we're all different. Like when I was a kid, I remember going on a family trip. I bought the color changing deck, and I take it back to the hotel, and I open up the deck of cards, and I see it's a regular deck with one blue-red card. And I thought at first, oh, there's a mistake. This is an error. And then I read the typewritten directions. I say, oh, you get a regular pack of cards and a blue-red deck. So this is color changing deck. And then I start reading it, and I quickly, for me it was wonderful. I said, wow, I just bought this trick because my brain saw an entire red deck. And I wasn't disappointed at all. It was $7 in 1973 for a regular deck that cost 75 cents, and that's quite a lot of money. $7
it was really the instructions. And
yes, but that's because I was interested in magic. So there's people coming here and they got to buy a trick right away and see how it works, and there's others who appreciate the secret more. And
one thing that's always been a staple in browsers from the old location to the new location is that there's a table. And I don't remember the last time that I've walked in and there aren't people jamming at the table. And it's sort of like, it's definitely a gesture for the community. Can you talk a little bit about having a table and that choice?
The table was started by Len Cooper, not me. So I have to give credit where credit is due. And he was from New York, and the magic shop in New York had a small table at times. Tana's Magic, very busy store, but very small, just because of the rent is, through the air is very high in New York. But it was Len's idea, and it, of course, provided an opportunity for those who want to hang out, the community to hang out and talk magic. The shop in the 70s, there's no internet, of course, and it was a
who would meet at,
Jay Sankey, started off at the Browser's Den table, just as any of you young guys did, working out tricks. He'd come on Saturdays and hash out crazy ideas and show it to others. And so the table was always at Browser's Den. The other magic shop, Morrissey's, didn't do that for their own reasons. Right. And I always thought it was a good thing. Bear in mind, when I was young, I never hung out at the table. I was too shy to do that. Right. So, but it's an important thing, and it's
It took a long time for me. I remember like being comfortable to sit at the table, and then as soon as I did, it was like every day after school I got to go to the magic shop and just be around magic.
People are afraid sometimes to figure there'd be pressure to show a trick and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it sends a message when someone walks into the shop too. You know, it's a comfortable thing in it. So it's a good thing in a few ways.
And you also you often see people you recognize in the shop, you know, and like. The more magicians that are there, the more it's like an incredible experience. You go to the shop and you're like, oh look, everyone's here. You spoke about how you don't really feel that, you know, children coming in has changed over the last couple of years. Have you seen any big changes because of the internet and all these things like Illusionist and Penguin and stuff like that?
Well, sure. I mean, but look, it's competition, right? The brick and mortar stores, but not just magic shops, right? All brick and mortar retail outlets have a challenge, and that is online shopping. So, you know, do we have a website? Sure. You know, we had a printed catalog before too. We always did mail order. But now, of course, it's very easy for others to websites to engage in different sorts of ways with a different customer base. So there's more choices. So it's of course a challenge, right? We're a general magic shop, so it's very difficult for a general
hit
store.
all the niches. Yeah.
Sure, exactly. You know, and you can't. It makes it harder. I mean, I can break it down. You know, if someone wants, if you can now email directly, you know, Magician X, Michael Lamar, John Carn, whoever turns you on, you know, Shutagawa, and you have in your email, and Shutagawa is responding. Am I Shutagawa? Am I that? No, but I don't take it personally. No, I'm not. I'm not Michael Lamar. I'm not
curator. You know, not.
Yeah, so can I compete? You know, if you can get a book signed by the author, hey, people are gonna do that. So but I don't get upset by stuff like that. That's the reality. And any business, you know, every business, every generation has challenges. So it's a challenge, and everyone has to up their game. And that's how I look upon it. So is it more difficult? Sure. But heck, you know, the arcade magic shop had to survive through the Great Depression and World War II. You know, was that a challenge? That's a challenge as well. Yeah. You know, we had a very serious recession here in, right, the Great Recession, 2009 to, let's say, 2014. That was a serious challenge. So it's a challenge. And it's, you know.
Like all business.
Yes. You know, and that's right. You can't get upset. But you have to simply try and understand it, navigate, and try and change. And that's it.
I actually have a question for Jonah. What was your first experience with Browser's Den? Do you remember it? Do you remember the early days?
I can't say I remember the first experience, but it was me walking in, probably my uncle who got me into magic, brought me, and we went into the store, and I don't know what my first effects were, but they were, I don't know. My uncle got me into magic with D-lights.
Oh, yeah.
Which he must have bought here.
Well, what year would that have been about?
It was like
99.
Yeah, for like 98 or something.
Or Las Vegas.
Yeah, well, that was where he saw it.
Oh, I see.
So that might be, but yeah. So he brought me here, and I do not remember the first one. I remember that it was at the Eglinton location, and and I'd been there a lot, but I don't.
You?
It took a while for me to actually get here. I wanted to be coming to the shop as soon as I knew it existed, but my mom got me magic tricks for my birthday, so I had to wait until I got those, because I knew I was getting magic for my birthday. And then I got the tricks, and then I had to learn all the tricks before she was going to buy me new ones. Yeah. I mean, when me and Jonah started jamming, my magic took off. So.
But it's but you see that it's the role of the shopkeeper to encourage those people to get together. So, you know, you're from an era where you're very young, but you had a taste of sort of the shop and community before the internet really exploded. There's others, I presume. I mean, I don't have kids, but I'm presuming they're really glued to that computer.
100%.
Right. And that's their life, and that's fine. And that's one. There's nothing wrong with, who am I to judge?
Just that's the medium in which they're consuming their
That's
magic.
right. And that's their world in other areas too. So to get them to the store and to get them involved may be more of a challenge. And that's up to the people running the store to do. Mm-hmm. So there's no guarantee in business. And I run the shop, and other magic dealers have to run the shop with thinking, no one owes you their money. It's their money. So right. some magic websites do a fantastic job. People can complain about Penguin or this. No, they're great at selling magic. Illusion is great at selling magic. Hank Lee was a retail brick and mortar magic shop, and for decades they were great at selling magic. Right. And they're creating, and there's good and bad, right? I'm sure some of the popular sellers of magic are creating wonderful magicians, and maybe not so great in some ways. But that's very true for brick and mortar shops. Yeah. Right? So will there'll be fewer of them? Probably, or will brick and mortar magic shop have to change more?
Possibly as well.
Possibly as well. It depends who's running it. I don't know.
So you mentioned our super awesome mega buzzword, which is community. Can you talk a little bit about how community has played a part in this store and its?
Well, it's a good question. It's a big question, by the way. It's an important question, I suppose, and it's an embarrassing question for me to respond to a little bit. But look, when I took over the shop, I do have a little bit of a theory about the store, and I think that a magic shop should be a fun experience. I think a magic shop should cultivate a dynamic wherein those who want to get serious about magic, they get that right environment, right vibe. And those who want to keep it fun, feel comfortable too. I also felt that, and still feel, that a magic shop, and all of us, a magic shop should be inclusive. Okay, I it's a big thing with me. That's why the table fit in with my feelings. So I want everyone to get along in my own weird way. I really do. Right. Those of us who stick in magic, most people get in and out of magic, right? They're 2 or 3 years, and maybe I'll see them 10 years later when they have 50 years, they have kids, and they filter back to the shop. But for those of us who stick with it, it's like a giant family. And in a family, quite often, people don't get along for whatever crazy reason. Well, the magic community is very similar. Some of the names and faces don't change too much decade from decade. And then there's conflicts and friction, not just among pros, but amongst hobbyists too. And as you may not want, you don't want to have an argument in your family. I don't like that either. Now, it's very hard.
Of course.
I see nonsense that goes on here, and I try to massage it in my own weird way so that people get along. And the bash isn't really a money maker, although we have to charge, more than normal, but a price for it. There's food involved. But you know what? It's time for everyone to get together. The customers have been very kind to Browser's Den. At our special events, anniversary parties and auctions, you guys come, you get packed into a little shop. And I know, I'm not ignorant to the fact that there's a social element, but that social element wasn't working in the small store. People would come just to see each other, but they can hardly talk to each other because it's the shop is small for an event like that. Right. So by having something like the bash, there's an opportunity to really socialize. And so the timing, it was time to do it, and the time was to bring the community together as much as I can. And because that's all when it's all said and done, all we've got is our memories. Right? You guys are going to look, we all, 20 years pass by, and what are we left with? A lot of it is memories, and so that's what the bash is really about. So to try, for all of us, as I mentioned at the bash, to take a moment from our busy schedules once a year to get together and share our common interest in magic, albeit that's a room filled with magicians, hobbies, and pros who have different degrees of interest, different card guys, kid magicians. So that's
great answer, and I think a great place to start wrapping up. Do you have any final questions, thoughts, worries now that you got a mic in your hand with the ears of the world listening?
Oh,
I made that sound like there's way more people listening to this podcast than there are.
This was actually being recorded? I didn't.
Oh, did we press record?
Yeah, this is live.
This is unbelievable. No. Thank you both for coming out all this way. There's 31 Celsius weather.
Hot.
Very hot.
We are happy to be here.
Thank you.
It's an awesome place.
Yeah,
And
I don't have air conditioning, so I'm happy to hang out here.
Thanks for asking me. And if anyone's
thanks so much for letting us.
yeah, I guess I'll make a commercial message.
There it
Anyone
is.
interested in attending the Browsers Magic Bash, just you can Google that and find out.
Next come on down to the shop.
Yeah, if you're ever in Toronto, or if you need a reason to come to Toronto, come on down to the shop. And like I always tell anybody who asks me about Magic, I say, do you know what Yorkdale is? They say, yeah. And I say, okay, right around there's a shop called Browsers Den. Go in, say Jonah sent you, and Jeff is going to hook you up with something nice.
Oh, man, I got to give you a discount next time.
You just got to give him something good.
Oh, man. No, everything's great. Thanks very much for asking me to do this.
Thank you so much, and we will see you all later.
Take care.
Wow, that was an awesome interview. A very short one, and now we're jumping into the next short one with someone very exciting, and this is Magic Mike, who created and started Sorcerers Safari Magic Camp, which has been absolutely incredible for us. Here he is. Hello and welcome to Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah.
My name is Tyler.
And we are here with Magic Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm great, thanks, Jonah. How are you?
We are doing excellent.
Great.
I just wanted to start by saying thank you. Because I know me and Tyler definitely wouldn't have become friends and grown to jam together and grown to start this podcast if it wasn't for Magic Camp. So it's very much been an element in our lives, and this month is themed community, and instinctually we thought of Magic Camp. So usually when we ask magicians, we say, how did you get into magic? So for this, how did you get into magic, and then how did Magic Camp come to be?
Okay. Well, first, I'm really glad you and Tyler, and I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many people from camp that have stayed in touch. Camp is now, in 2016, we're having our 20th summer. So 20 years, some of these people have known each other for 20 years, stayed in touch, and stayed interested in magic because of that. So Magic Camp is really all about community. It's all about the magic community. So I started in magic, I guess the way all kids do. 10 years old, I got a magic set. We had just moved to Toronto from Montreal. I didn't have tons of friends, and so I played with my magic set and kind of enjoyed it, and one thing led to another, and something about performing the magic. I did models, I had chemistry sets, that kind of I liked figuring stuff out.
And, yeah.
Exactly. And so I did it for fun, and then sometime in high school I discovered I've had 2 jobs in my life. One was doing paper route, and the other was working at a gas station on the night shift. And I discovered in high school, when I was doing the night shift at the gas station, that I could make just as much money. And I think it was like $50 or $60. It wasn't big money, but it was back then. For doing birthday parties, doing magic at a kid's birthday party. So suddenly my hobby became a real focus, and I started putting it out there, and I did hundreds, if not thousands, of birthday parties. But certainly, like, all through high school, all through university. That's all I did was magic shows. Mm-hmm. And then I got very lucky after university. I went to York, and I did a Bachelor of Fine Arts because I thought I'd be an actor, director, something like that. Never thought I'd be a magician. But kept doing magic through university, and it was just serendipitous. But when I finished university, YTV was just starting. Yeah. And I was at a big party, and there were some people there from YTV, and we just started talking, and I said, you guys need magic. It's a kids channel, you guys need magic. And so I ended up doing a ton of stuff with YTV in those first 5 years. And so basically out of university for 5, 6, 7 years, having done nothing but magic, I decided, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And sort of buckled down and started with marketing and expanding the show and territories and things like that. So now we skip forward about 20 years. Well, no, 15, let's say 15, 16 years. And Jen, I get married, Samantha comes into my life, and being a full-time professional magician, I was on the road a ton. I was on the road like 6 or 7 months a year. In fact, so I thought, well, Samantha's out of school in the summer. If I could do something in the summer, that would be great. And it was actually me and Jeff Pinsky from the Magic Shop were talking one afternoon, and I had said something about a camp, and he said, yeah, you should. It was just really that simple. And I thought, oh, okay, let's give it a try. And we put it out there, and I don't know if you know the story of camp. The first summer we had
Tell me it, I don't.
6 kids, of which one was mine, one was another staff member, and one kid didn't pay. They stiffed us. I remember that. But we must have done something right, because the next summer we had 12, so it doubled.
And what was it at an overnight campsite?
Yes, we had rented a camp. We rented a camp called Camp Tamarix. Oh, sorry. So go back 1 year earlier, tried it. Nobody signed up. Like 2 kids signed up.
Oh, wow.
And we couldn't really do it with that. So I ended up doing like a day camp. We talked to the parents. And I ended up just doing magic lessons at the Magic Shop. And I did that for a little bit one summer. The following summer, my friend Mike Toll, I had just bought this house. Samantha just started the school, and the camp thing was still something. So we thought, oh, okay, you know what? Let's do it. So against the mortgage on the house, I took a big loan, and we rented a camp.
Wow.
And that's when we had 6 kids. So basically lost all my money that summer. And we had to sign a 3-year. So the following summer, as I say, we doubled, but we still lost a ton of money. So we went from 6 to 12. Then the following year we went to 25, and then the following year we went to 50, and then 100. Sorry, and then and then 150. Like it just grew hugely, doubled and doubled and doubled. So when we hit 150, that was our 5th year, and that's the year we decided we would change camps. So year 6, we started at Camp White Pine. But that's really how camp came about. It was just an idea for me to be able to be in the city in the summer. And then the way camp runs, that has been really organic. That's just been the different people that have come up. So the first couple of years, we had Dan Harlan coming up, and he had just finished working with Jeff McBride in New York before Jeff moved to Vegas. And so they had those mystery weekends. And so camp was kind of a... He had some suggestions from those, and then, as we brought in different people, we've got like so many amazing people that have been part of the camp.
Let's
community.
talk about them. So, who are some of the big names? I mean, it's been 20 years now of big, huge names, and for me, I know that as a camper, that was the place where I met the big names.
Right.
Like,
okay.
That was the place where I would be very excited about who the special guest was, or whatever the case may be, of all the Wayne Houchins and Daniel Garcias of the world were coming to Magic Camp. So, can you highlight some people over the last 2 decades?
Well, I'll have to give a shout out to Johnny Ace Palmer. So he was our first guest. He came the first 2 years. This is before we even had the concept of special guest. Johnny was just really supportive of young magicians, and FISM winner, like world champion magician, and he came up, sure enough, and did that. So for me, that was the first, like, wow, people are paying attention.
Guest,
people are paying attention to this. And he came up, I think we had maybe 50 kids the first summer we had a special guest. And he came up, and he was excellent. But since then, we've had, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget so many people right now, and I apologize, but we've had world champions. Sean Farquhar comes up all the time. World champion Shoma. We've had Michael Amar. Michael Amar was one of those guys that it took years and years to get him to come up, but he did. Murray Hatfield. I'm just thinking Canadians now. I can't remember.
Michael Close is there every summer.
Yep. Michael Close is kind of an honorary Canadian right now. He likes to say he's gone from Hoosier to Hoser. But Michael, and Lisa, Dan and Dave, Buck Twins, sort of before they really popped. They were obviously popular enough, but Danny Garcia, Wayne Houchin, Gregory Wilson. Tyler Wilson. Yeah, we had Tyler Wilson. Sean Fields, who's on tour right now with Darcy Oak.
Of course, Lee and Aaron, who are
Lee
super
Asher,
involved.
Aaron Fisher. They've been coming up for forever. As I said, Dan Harlan, Josh J. I'm just trying to think those first summers of the people we had. I can't think off the top of my head.
You've gone through a ton of them, and those are massive names and people from all over the world. It's a huge deal.
Yeah, it's been great. Camp, became something I never envisioned. I never thought it would come so far and do so well and be so well received within the Magic community, because all these people, all these big names, everybody volunteers. There's nobody that gets paid for camp, which is really the only way we can do it, because it's pretty expensive to rent these places. But everybody comes up and has a great time, and that's good enough. So that's, to me, that really shows them wanting to improve the Magic community. Because camp sort of happened right at that crossroads between sort of learning from books and videos to learning on YouTube.
And it's an environment. Camp is an environment that is that environment that people talk about of the olden days, like you're saying, where people would jam around for hours and hours, and because things have moved online, that's changed in a lot of ways. So camp is still this place where there's almost no secrets. Like everyone comes and jams.
And I totally agree with that. And although the magic has changed in the way people learn. So, for example, you go to YouTube and you can learn the technique of a trick. I think what you learn at camp is really applying the technique. So you're not learning moves, you're learning how to use those moves.
Well, we have things like card class and performance workshop,
Absolutely.
Where we actually get the campers to perform, and we get to workshop their performance, help them with what's good and what's bad, and then by the time they leave, they have amazing points and amazing material and stuff to input in their work. And that's the kind of thing that is not that you can't read in a book, or watch on a DVD. That's a real life experience and one of the most amazing things.
For sure. And again, the other secrets that they learn are things like networking, or agent, some of the people from camp have now moved ahead so quickly. Things that would have taken years before to meet these people, make those 100%. Connections and call somebody when you're in Vegas. But now they've spent a week with that person. So it's no problem going and ringing them up and saying, hey. And so, and that's the thing. I think camp is like 1 week of heavy mentoring, which is different than instruction. Mentoring, you learn not just some tricks or how to perform, but the deeper secrets in magic. Some of the things that, take professionals years and years to cultivate and learn, we're able to distill and give to the campers. Some real valuable information.
And I've felt that, moving through it. Is there an origin to the name?
No.
You just sat around table thinking of something clever.
Well, so at that point I was Magic Mike in Canada. I have the name registered years before the movie came. Yep. In fact, they had to call me to get clearance in Canada. Yeah, I have the name registered, so I got free movie tickets. Something about alliteration, and there was Magic Camp. There wasn't yet the Mystery School, but we thought, it's like you're going into the wilderness, like a safari, and sorcerer. So, why not Sorcerers Safari? I mean, I picked that name, and sadly, it's stuck. It's a good name. It's fine, but it's amazing how people can misspell or mispronounce it. But, it sticks with you, and it's now a name that's known. So it really,
and for a lot of us, it's just Magic Camp.
Sure.
It's sort of it's become what it really is. So because, like I said, this month is community, do you have any thoughts on maybe the Canada or the Toronto community and what camp has done? I know, like you said, it wasn't exactly what you had intended, in the beginning. It was just... Yeah. But do you have any, you've sort of been able to see the the results, you know?
Right.
The pebble, what's the word I'm looking for?
The ripples?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
That's it.
yeah.
You've been able to see the ripples from
Right.
what you've done. So do you have any comments on that?
Well, it's hard to say because obviously I'm a little biased, but I truly do believe that it has changed the Magic scene in Toronto. For sure.
1,000,000%.
Because, again, I mean, it's new generations and everything, but these generations are much better armed. And it's not because they've spent a ton of time on YouTube. It really is. The guys that are sort of working around Toronto and Canada now are all camp alumni. Sheldon, Cassavant, Alex Seaman on the West Coast. I'm just trying to think, but you know, and in Toronto,
Billy's doing great
stuff.
Ben
In Toronto
Train,
for sure. Ben Train and Mark Correa and Keith Brown.
Killing it.
I'm just trying to think.
Chad
Neil Croswell. All these guys started Magic Camp, so it's great to see. Like I'm not saying camp is the reason that they're there.
It is a
but
powerhouse of
it
people.
Certainly helped for sure.
A lot of alumni, you know, it speaks wonders for what Magic Camp has done.
Yeah.
What's the future?
That's a great question. I really don't know. At this point, I honestly don't know. I just we're looking at kind of a new renaissance with camp. For this summer, our 20th, we've got a new campground. Things are going to be run a little differently. Obviously the stuff that works we're keeping, but we're going to be able to experiment with some new ideas and some new things, and we'll just see. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
So let's talk about it. So let's talk about the 20th year, the 2016 summer.
Okay.
We have the special guest who was just announced, Suzanne, the magician.
Yeah.
She is absolutely amazing, and we have... We've been reaching out online on Twitter, and she has been so sweet, and we're super excited for everything.
She's amazing. I'm very excited that she's participating. She's also the first female special guest we've had. And we've had people and their partners come up, but Suzanne is kind of the headliner on her own, female, which is great.
It is really, really exciting.
Yeah.
So what else is new and super exciting about 2016? I know that we have Layman's Aplenty.
Yes, we will actually be sharing the campground this year, which we've never done. In the past, we always rented the campground.
But that's super exciting.
Absolutely, I think so. And also because we've been doing it for so long, it's not as intimidating. I think originally we were thinking, to share the campground would be a little weird. What about our guys and secrets getting out there and everything? But we've been doing it now long enough that I believe it will just enhance our evening shows. Those
are the best shows, when we have like the kitchen staff.
Exactly.
And
yep.
We're always. It's so funny when we're alone at the camp because the only non-magicians are kitchen staff. So when they come out to our shows, they're the volunteers for every single thing.
That's
trick,
true.
Right?
Yep.
So it'll be really, really exciting.
To have a full range too, right? So we'll have kids and adults,
exactly, and
none of whom have experienced magic on the scale that we do.
And that's exactly what. And that reflects exactly about who's coming to camp. There's a lot of kids magicians, there's a lot of adult magicians, there's a lot of teen magicians, there's a lot of people who are getting into the magic community by teaching magic, and there's a lot of people who are performing, Yeah. So we have this massive opportunity to perform, for each other.
Yeah, but also to spread the magic. Because initially, when camp started, I always said I wasn't trying to cultivate new magicians so much as I was trying to cultivate new magic audiences. So... obviously there are some major secrets that go down at camp, but for the most part, it's really just basic instruction, how to do magic decently. And then there are those that need to, move up, but everybody else is just to understand the skill and dedication that goes into performing magic so that these kids, even if they don't become magician, may buy a ticket to a magic show in the future. And that was really what it was all about.
Just getting people interested
in watching live magic. That was really it. And again, magic was kind of at a low ebb when camp started. We caught the wave, luckily, because just after camp started, it was David Blaine and Harry Potter, and that stuff just brought magic way back up again. But the idea was just to cultivate people so that if somebody goes to a club, and they see a band, and the band is terrible, they'll still go back to that club next week and see another band because they have the experience of knowing that that band was terrible and this band is good. Mm-hmm. People don't have that experience with magicians.
Because the average person has seen one magician
exactly.
in their life, right?
And if that magician was no good, then that person doesn't like magic. Mm-hmm. And if that magician was good, then great, but again, they don't keep coming back. Mm-hmm. So the idea was to sort of explore and just show people that there's different kinds of magic. You've got kids magicians, you've got major illusions.
I remember
you've got
the first time when I came as a camper, my parents dropped me off at the buses. There was a camper loading her doves into the bus. And that was just such a surreal experience for me as like an 8-year-old or a 13-year-old or whatever it was.
Right.
It was just such a surreal experience that I came from my little world of magic. Maybe I met a couple people at the magic store or whatever, and then I came out to magic camp, and there are these people bringing their doves to camp, and it was very surreal.
Right.
And it speaks to what you're saying about how it's really brought a lot of these different things together.
For sure. So let me ask you something. Are you a member of a magic club?
I am not a member of any magic clubs.
And many of your generation are in exactly the same thing. So that community that we used to get from the magic clubs is waning now. And also I feel some clubs don't really cater to their members as well as maybe they could. And so that's what camp does. It's for this generation that isn't going to join a magic club, but you know what? Once a year, they'll come and spend a week and make friends. And so now you don't have to necessarily go to a magic club. You can talk online with your friends.
What you're trying to do with a club and with a community is you're trying to have people that you can openly share ideas.
Exactly.
And when you build this like amazing friendship in a weekend, then you have these people in your life that you can share these ideas, and you're not now looking for an organization to help you cultivate that.
Right.
You almost have this community that we've earned from camp.
Right.
I remember I think this is the funniest layman magician story ever for me, which is that when we were sharing the camp one year with someone doing volleyball or something.
Okay, right.
And they said that they had found a pack of cards, and they were all. Can you tell the story? Because I don't.
Sure. If with the invisible deck.
Yeah.
Okay. One summer they were. Whoever happens to be on the campgrounds when we're there, whether it's kitchen or a volleyball game or a bike tour passing through, we invite them to the shows that night, and they're always really, really appreciative. And this group was super appreciative, and in fact, on the way out, they found a pack of cards. And, rather than keep them or whatever, they decided they were going to return them to us. And when he handed me the pack, he said, well, but there were a whole bunch of cards reversed. Almost half the deck was turned the wrong way. So I went through and straightened it all out for you, and here you go. And he returned. That's right. I don't know if he realized they were sticky, but he definitely noticed that there were cards like back to back. So he straightened it all out and returned the deck, and I said thank you. I thought that was very funny.
Such a funny story, and you know what? There's a lot of different things like that from camp that are these lifelong memories.
Oh, sure.
And it's really awesome.
Oh.
Any last thoughts now that you have a mic in your hand with the ears of the world, or whoever's listening to this?
Come to Sorcerers Safari. Come to Magic Camp.
Absolutely.
Join a magic club. Go to the magic store every weekend, every other weekend. Get a community. Don't do magic in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. Don't do it in a vacuum. We all see these guys on YouTube, and they can do the moves. They can't socialize. They can't perform. They can... I don't know what it is. They've got great technique. They've got no performance skills. You only get that by getting out, meeting people, and again, magic. If you think about it, we all do the same thing. Somebody selects a card and we find it. So what's going to make it different, you versus me versus them, is us. It's your personality. Bring that forward, and the only way you're going to do that is by getting some confidence, meeting others, and discovering your personality versus theirs.
One of the biggest things for me going to camp is you arrive and everyone's a magician.
Yeah.
And suddenly that's not the unique thing that separates you from the crowd, right?
Right.
And it really, really helped me, at least, find my voice in magic, because I realized that I needed a voice in magic. You know, magic itself wasn't enough of a, unique aspect. There was magicians aplenty, and I needed to be unique and have my own thing. So Magic Camp was very helpful for that.
That's great. That's actually a point I didn't make, but that we definitely discovered. Every kid comes, and they're like the magic kid at their high school or junior high or whatever school. They're the kid that does magic.
Exactly.
Then they come to camp, and there's 100 of those kids. And so it forces you to step it up. Because when you're just the kid that does magic, you do it your way, and everybody appreciates it and likes it. And you don't realize... you don't work harder because you're getting the job done.
Exactly.
You're getting the job done, and you're thinking that's good enough. You come to camp and you realize, wait a minute, there's all these other guys getting the job done. We got to step it up a little bit. And so I think that's a really valuable part of camp that you mentioned. I think that's one of the most valuable because, again, they're at that age, right? Like 12 to 16, 17, like right in that area is really when you develop your voice.
Yeah, 100%. When you're like, exactly, like when you're at that point in the journey, you need to start becoming unique, and working with other magicians is incredibly, incredibly helpful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mike.
You're ever so welcome. Thank you guys for doing this, for supporting camp, for coming as a camper and counselor now, staff, and everything. It's just amazing. So
we're super excited, and for anybody at home listening to this, 2016 is your year to come to Magic Camp. It is going to be absolutely amazing. So many of the guests that we've had so far on the podcast, we have met at Magic Camp, and they are regulars, and they will be there this summer. So you'll be able to meet some of these people. If you enjoyed it, if you like me and Tyler, you'll get to meet us. If you don't, whatever, we'll be there anyways. And Mike will be there, and Lee, and Aaron, and everyone, and it's going to be an amazing, amazing summer. And we will see you all at Sorcerers Safari 2016. Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And see you guys later.
That was the 2 cents from Magic Mike on Community, and I'm very excited for Sorcerers Safari Magic Camp this year. I'm sure Joan is too. Everybody come. Now, we have a last little tidbit from our good friend Ben Train. What makes a community good, and how to be a good member of community, and how it's helped him a little bit.
Yeah, so here it is, Ben Train talking a little bit about community.
Hello and welcome to Discourse in Magic. This month we are talking about community, and we have our good friend Ben Train to sort of say what makes a magic community good and what he thinks he'd like to see out of the magic community in the future.
So yeah, I'm very blessed that I've been able to travel and meet a whole bunch of different magic communities in the States and in Canada and in Europe a little bit, and there's amazing magic communities all over the world, and there's also really shitty magic communities all over the world. And one of the big things that seems to be a deciding factor is don't be an asshole. And I mean,
it's great. Like it sounds silly, but that is phenomenal advice.
And what I mean by that is, because that sounds really overly simplistic, but it isn't. Don't be an asshole. Like, if someone has booked an event on a night, why would you book another lecture, let's say, 4 days later? Like, why not talk to each other? No magic community is big enough to have, like, guys trying to undermine each other by bringing in different lecturers, or by bad-mouthing other performers, or by, boycotting like, I don't understand, like, what is going on there?
We're a community, we're supposed to be helping each other.
Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to give all your time and resources to people. It doesn't mean that you have to post your phone number on the front store of the magic store so people can call you. That's not what I'm saying. But, like, if you want to book, if I was in a community and I wanted to book a lecture for someone, I wanted to bring in one of my friends, let's say, to lecture. Well, I would look around. First thing I do is is there any holidays or anything that would conflict with it? Because you're trying to do right by your artist. And if you want a good community that has people coming in, you have to treat these people well, right? That, people talking positively about your community leads to a better community. So when my artist comes in, I want people there. So if there's other events happening, I don't want to book it at the same time. Not on Christmas Day. That's crazy. If there's other people coming in too, other events or other magic things, that takes away from people coming to my guy's event because they may not have money or time. Takes away from them buying product. So if you want to bring in an artist and you bring them in close to someone else's date, it's a very spiteful thing. It's
very clear what you're doing.
It's also very short-sighted, and sometimes I don't know why. I don't think that it's necessarily spiteful, and I don't understand what the logic is behind it. Because now what you do is you're hurting this guy's event. You're hurting your own event. You're also hurting this artist who's coming in. So when he leaves, it's a less than positive experience, And the community is divided in some ways now because now you don't have this guy who could be helping you advertise your event, letting people know. So now you get guys going to lectures, but there's only 22 people show up. And then someone next week is like, oh, I didn't know this guy was in town. Yeah, you missed it, And people are constantly undermining and they're not communicating with each other. And that's shitty. And then you get these communities where it's the opposite. Where people are
Everyone's helping each other.
I hear you have an event going on. Do you need any help producing it? If you need any help with this trick, let me know. A great example of a guy we have in Toronto is Lee Asher. Lee is a powerhouse of community spirit. His spirit animal is a cheerleader. It has to be. And because he's there. If you're a young kid who wants to help with some stuff, he's there to help. Meet a mentor or something. And if you want to get involved with Magic Camp or if you're producing a show, I've had events where I'm like, oh, if I need to get a poster made for it, and he's like, I'll make it for you.
That's amazing.
You're like, wow, what does he get from that? Nothing, except he gets this community where now I want to contribute and be part of it, which is what happened, and I was involved, and I'm excited to share my community with people, so I'm constantly trying to get my friends, guys in New York, other places, come to Toronto, look how great this city is. So you build a community by building a community, by no matter how small your community is, if you're all pulling together, it's awesome, And
even just a couple guys just rooting for each other makes a massive difference.
And going and meeting different communities, there are communities of people of 12 people,
but who meet
that are
weekly.
Way more fun than groups of 80. And
100%.
And I don't just mean fun. I mean you get more out of them. They put on more shows and they
they're more
work together and they care about each other.
So I think it's together both ends of the spectrum. Don't be an asshole and care.
Speaking of which, a big thank you to everybody listening to this right now for being part of our community and listening to this.
Yeah, this is a great example of supporting. If this is the kind of thing that you dig, don't just click like on Facebook, share it, post it on your wall, let people know, because I have I love these guys. They're friends of mine, but this is just a project that I think is awesome, and I love what they're doing, and I wanted to help out and be part of it. And you don't have to know these guys to dig the project and want to help out. That the world, the internet has connected us all, so we can all support each other as a global community. That's all. Kiss.
There you go, some info from our community about community. Once again, if you thought that was exciting, what Ben said, what Mike said, anything that we said, then come to Sorcerers Safari 2016 this summer. It's going to be absolutely amazing. All of us are going to be there, plus more absolutely amazing people. They just announced Suzanne the Magician, who is wonderful, and we are super excited. That's right, she fooled Penn and Teller.
Come on.
So, thank you so much for listening to this episode on community, and there's more community to come.
Very exciting this month. A lot of months coming up with more themes and more exciting topics. So please join our community. Check us out at discourseandmagic.com. Send us an email at magicdiscourse.
Nope.
No, at... You do it. Fuck it.
Send us an email to discourse@discourseandmagic.com.
Follow us on Twitter at magicdiscourse.
Or go to our website and join our awesome, super fun, exciting newsletter.
By
the time that this goes out, we will have sent our first packed newsletter full of magic tips and tricks and
you
ideas.
You missed it.
And you missed it. So if you don't want to ever miss it again, then hop onto Discourse in Magic and sign up for the newsletter because we love it, and that's one of the places where we send some of our best stuff. So thank you so much for tuning into that episode, and we will see you all on the next episode of Discourse in Magic.
Ciao, ciao.